Hello and welcome to the first episode of Anfield Index as the Academy podcast. It's been a busy few weeks for the first team under Arne Slot, and it can sometimes become a bit draining talk about the same things over and over again. So, what better to do than talk about Liverpool's Academy instead? And who better to talk to about that than Lewis Boa? How are we, Lewis?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Just chilling out this morning. How are you?
Yeah, not bad, not bad. It's good to talk about some new stuff instead of talking about the same stuff every day.
Yeah,
So I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, I guess if the best place to start would be obviously not to dwell on the past, but Jurgen Klopp left in the summer and Arne Slot came in. And I'm kind of curious to learn what's changed in the academy with Arne Slot coming in. I know we're all kind of used to what's changed in the first team, but has there been any real changes under Arne in the academy?
I think it's too early to give a wholesale judgment on that.
Yeah,
We've seen him be a little bit more selective with the players that are used in first teams. I think what Jurgen Klopp was really good at was maximising the talent. What maybe you wouldn't consider the top of the range, he'd find a use for those who were still very talented players, granted, but he'd find a use for those players in the first team in training. We saw the Carabao Cup final, which maybe other clubs you wouldn't see that kind of process used. But so far, we've seen Nyoni
yeah,
being the real star. What Slot's chosen. It seems that he really likes him and that he will be using the first team setup. Other than that, we've not seen too much. But he's a new manager, wanting to imprint his new style. So maybe he would be a bit more cautious at the beginning to translate his ideas. What I have heard is that his standards are incredibly high. That's from people in and around the club, close to some players. And essentially, if you can't give him what he wants, then you're not out per se. But
yeah,
he's very selective.
yeah.
Um,
But he comes across like that in the first team as well, so it's not really surprising to hear that. In all honesty,
yeah. So we'll see. We'll see how the players who will come to the forefront as the season progresses. As I say, we've seen Leone get a chance. We've seen Renell Young on the bench for a game.
yeah,
Um, Seems like that situation was they needed an attacker. He was the one chosen. A good choice, in my opinion.
yeah,
Player who's having a good season. Surprised a few, really, in terms of Renell Young playing a centre forward role for the under 21s, which is something that he's not done before. But yeah, in terms of Arne Slot, we'll see. We'll see. Um, we saw players under Jurgen Klopp, what was in the first team picture, which were then told to train with the under 21s in the summer. And I'm not saying that whether that's wrong or whether that's right.
yeah.
It's different. Um, so we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, and I wanted to get your opinion on this actually, because in the summer, obviously, we saw the likes of Bobby Clark leave, and Klopp's kids winning the League Cup, and I was there. It was brilliant to watch, and I was quite surprised by the direction the club took. I wasn't expecting the likes of Bobby Clark to leave, especially not permanently anyway. And obviously, the likes of Bajcetic leaving on loan and Ben Doak. Were you surprised at the direction they took in the summer?
It's difficult to tell whether it's a direction or a case by case basis at the minute.
Yeah,
With Bobby Clark, I think we spoke in the summer about opportunistic buying. I think Clark was almost an opportunistic sale. Um, I think he could have well stayed at the club. If memory calls correctly, I think he was injured most of the summer, so he didn't even really get a
yeah,
chance to play under Slot or even train, should I say? But I don't think there's any other time period or any other scenario that would occur other than what aligned this summer in Pep and Linda's move into Salzburg. Um, I don't think we'd get that price from anywhere else in
yeah,
around. So it was almost a club capitalising on the situation, and I think that obviously the link with Linda's being there and Clark, the stars aligned, and we managed to get a good price, which I don't think we would have otherwise got. Not to say Clark is not
yeah,
worth that money, but there were any other real rumours of a sale And the teams that were linked to him, I don't think would be able to afford that price. So I think with Clark, it was an opportunistic sale. Stefan Bajcetic, I think he needs to play. There was rumours of Barcelona, which at the time it seemed quite ludicrous. It seemed the club seemed to be in a bit of turmoil. But seem to be doing well this season. Hindsight is a blessing. Maybe it would have been a good decision to send him there. No, but the depth, it's just about minutes, really, and he's definitely going to get that at Salzburg. So I think that was a good choice. Judging from how much Slot has used Endo and Tyler Morton, it was definitely the right decision to send him on loan, especially after the amount of football that he missed. And Ben Doak was a surprise for me. No, it wasn't a surprise that he actually did leave on loan. It was just more so of a talk around the club willing to sell him. I think people who have followed me, my coverage for a while, know like how highly I rate him. He's one of the best players I've seen in the academy for all teams for quite some time. And I would like him to have got more of a chance, even just in training. But football moves quickly, and things can change. We've seen how well he's doing at Middlesbrough. His stats are coming up great. He seems to be enjoying himself. Arne Slot has name-checked him in a press conference, even jokingly, albeit. But so maybe things have changed, and it'd be nice to see him integrated. But on the back of a season in a championship, playing week in, week out, he's going to want to play next season. And that will be up to the club to be able to sell the idea of being able to integrate him into a team, or whether he might want to touch wood. Should he consider him the same manner, you would assume there's going to be Premier League clubs interested, if not already. And would that be for a loan or a sale? I'm not sure.
There was talk in the summer that was it Southampton and Leicester were interested in signing him, so it wouldn't surprise us. And I would kind of like to see. I think the two on loanees that have stood out to me is Dork and Kumas, who I'm really excited by. And you do wonder whether we saw it with Harvey Elliott when he went on loan to Blackburn, whether they could do something similar when he comes back next season. But yeah, it's really exciting to see. And yeah, like I say, I was a bit surprised at some of the choices, and I think you're seeing with the amount of football Salah's playing. I mean, I know it's hard to rest him or drop him at the minute with the way he's playing, but I would have kind of liked to see one of them stick around and maybe get a few minutes. But like you said, to be playing every single week, it is really, really valuable. So yeah, just moving on to now. I know we said we wouldn't talk about the first team, but I had to ask you about this. The academy graduates in the team at the minute. I know Trent's a standout one, but I was at the Real Madrid game the other week, and Kelleher, Bradley, Jones were probably the three standout performers for me. They're absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
When they were in the academy, how certain were people that they were going to be a huge success?
I don't think anybody was certain, especially with Kelleher. It's a very difficult position to break into. Naturally, probably the hardest. And in terms of Kelleher, it was a bit before the time I started heavily covering the youth teams, but I saw a lot of Conor Bradley.
Yeah.
And you could tell that he had something. It was the best top three players on the pitch. It wasn't just the skill set that he had; it's the intensity that he plays with. I think for me, I remember the first time I caught a proper full match of him. It was against Arsenal, and he was up against Reece Nelson that day. He dropped back in to play for the under-21s, and the first couple of runs that he had Bradley on toast. He was chasing him every single time. Bradley was playing up for the under-18s. I think he would have been 17 at the time, up against a 22, 21-year-old Reece Nelson. It looked like a long day, but something just switched, and he massively recovered it. He could have gone into Harding, and he ended up probably coming out on top in that personal battle. And for me, that's what always sticks out with him: the durability, the intensity, the resilience. But there were a lot of calls for him to be introduced into the first team when he played. I probably wouldn't have assumed it to be so rapidly, but he definitely could have provided cover in the cup competitions. I think that has accelerated for a bit. I mean, he's a captain of his country, so you have to say it's done pretty well. But Kelleher, he's gone from strength to strength, and is a credit to himself. He's always been a very relaxed, humble, intelligent player, and it's good to see him doing well. And we've even got Gerald Kwanzaa, who stepped in, another one, not playing against Real Madrid, but his rise has been excellent. Partnered with Billy Kumateo at one time, who was tipped for big things himself, and it would always be Billy that maybe got the opportunities first instance, and it was just more of a waiting game for Kwanzaa. And I think what you have to say about the academy graduates doing well now, it's a suggestive process to other players. So the players in the academy will see those players doing well, and they'll say it's possible. What I like doing is, I think to the fans who watch the games, keep an eye on the club, we can see who's next up just by looking at the under-21s. You've got the likes of Dioni, and the players who get a lot of coverage like McConnell. But I like looking at the layer beneath there, who's the players who are ready to break out. And Bradley was in that group at one time, and it seems so unlikely that at the time when you're watching an academy match with fans of 20, 30 people at the game, that we're going to be playing for the first team one day, but it is possible, and these players are showing that.
Yeah, when I was at uni, a bit of a side note, but I used to always go to the academy matches as part of my course, and I kind of film the games. And the one thing I always enjoyed was kind of seeing who the standout players were. And I remember I was at a game just last season or the season before. It was Southampton playing, and Tyler Diblin was up front. And actually, in the assignment, I said in the commentary for it, oh, he looks really, really good. And then to see him go on, and why it is really, really kind of fun and kind of exciting to see so many young players kick on. And the one thing that always impresses me is like the maturity and the mentality behind them. I mean, you spoke about Conor Bradley there, and I mean, the adversity that he's faced at such a young age, going off the pitch, the passing of his dad was obviously horrible news, and then on the pitch, the injuries he's had, and Calvin Ramsey was signed and was supposed to be the next big right back, and he's overcome that as well. The maturity and the mentality in these academy players it's baffling to see.
Yeah, I think it's overlooked sometimes. What irritates me is we've got the top tier players who are big talents in the academy, but all the players in the academy have devoted a huge part of their life to the game. So they have to be that level of maturity. Even like a lot of players have moved city, moved country, left their families behind at such a young age. So and this is a job for them. This is a job for them. So they're putting everything they have into it. So, and the academy will be teaching them not just for football, but life lessons and whatnot. But they are mature. They're a credit to themselves, really.
Yeah, and just looking at the academy at the minute. Yeah, I know we spoke about the likes of Ignoni and stars that are expected to break through in the near future. Is anyone who's kind of going under the radar? I mean, I've seen Kieran Morrison's named a lot.
Yeah. Becoming more known amongst the fans. Morrison last season, he broke through as an under-16 player. Initially as a midfielder. What I like about him is like how versatile he is. Broke through as a midfielder as an under-16, and straight away saw one of his best assets at that level is ball striking, the danger in and around the box. It had a bit of a stint on the left wing. I believe even as an under-16 player, he was a striker as well. Used there. But now for the under-21s this season, he's been tasked with playing on the right, and he's cutting in side, getting a lot of joy there. Likes playing in the pockets. And we are blessed with a lot of attacking talents. So for the UF Youth League game, we've almost seen him revert back into that midfield role. So he's working his way around the pitch. And it's not about having a set position really in football these days. It's more of a role. He combines well with all those around him. he's definitely a player to watch out for. He's still eligible for the under-18s, even though he's playing for the under-21s. He's a player I've actually spoke to myself, and he's a really nice lad, to be fair. And all he says is that he wants to just work as hard as he can and progress through the ranks. But he's definitely becoming more known to the fans. Player of the Month nomination this month for his performances in the Premier League too. So it's good to see. Formerly of Manchester United, was actually released by them as a youth player. But, it's Liverpool's game.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of that where Liverpool have poached from other clubs in recent years, haven't we? I mean, we saw it with Dork, and then Agnoni came from Leicester, didn't he? Is that? I mean, you'll have to let me know if I'm wrong on this. Is that kind of a new approach by the club, or I know that that's not always kind of happened, but or is it just that they're getting a lot of them right?
Yeah. So Liverpool have always been in the market for the best young academy players. For a number of years. Well, they're a huge club. It's what they're looking to do. But I think a lot of people say this is a new approach. I don't quite think so. I just think all the top clubs are going to be in for all the top players all the time. But I think Liverpool have a more narrowed approach to the likes of Man United, City, Chelsea, where those clubs, which isn't a bad thing, will buy or grab 3 to 4 of those players. Liverpool might be looking at one or two every year. And I have spoke to somebody in this who's involved in the process, and Liverpool, from what I hear, are one of the best clubs at being able to pitch to a player. If Liverpool get a chance to speak to a young player, I think they'll always get I think they've always got a good chance of securing a team. He said he was blown away with the level of homework Liverpool had put into him. They'd never seen anything like it before. And I think that's a testament to the way that the club's run. That is one good part of the academy. And this particular player had more lucrative, shall we say, offers elsewhere. And the level of homework, the transition to the first team that was pitched, the plan to the player, that it blew the player's family, the camp away. And it's good to see. I think the more narrow approach means that you can devote more time on the training pitch to those specific players. There's more chance of those specific players getting a chance as opposed to having a lot of competition in his position. And we've seen it this season, which I'm sure we'll speak about him a lot as the season goes on. But there's Rio Ngumoha, who's really starting to make some waves in the past couple of weeks. So another player alongside Alvin Eamon who joined this summer.
Yeah, so just on Ngumoha, because obviously everyone wants to know the latest on him. He's really exciting. We've all seen the clips on Twitter of him skinning people, and there was even a report I saw earlier in the week that the clubs had to delete certain footage because he's beaten first team players that much in training. I'm not sure how true that is.
I won't be too sure about that. I'm sure even I was speaking to my friend about it. I'm sure even if a senior player massively embarrasses another senior player, he might take it out. I'm sure it's been the same for other academy players. With that being said, he does have some dazzling footwork. Probably never seen anything like it before, really.
Yeah.
It's not to suggest he's the best player I've ever seen, but in terms of his ceiling, it's frightening. There are always areas to refine, but I think the feeling is if we can get him in those positions where he's one-on-one with his fullback or 1v2, which doesn't seem to matter to him, then he can be an asset should he evolve other areas of the game. And we've seen him progress already, to be fair. He had a quiet opening few weeks at Liverpool. Although we can't be too harsh to judge a player moving to a new city, new place of work, new friends. It seems like he was just warming up. in his opening few weeks, and we can't forget that he's played no football since May. The Premier League ruling will be strict, but he has to stay away from the club up until everything's signed off. So it was almost a mini pre-season, whereas the season was actually starting for other players. But we had an international break a couple of weeks ago, and since he's come back from that, it's been sensational, really. I think we saw in the opening few weeks a couple of examples of maybe one dribble too many, holding onto the ball for too long. But now, and he's learning with his teammates as well. He's learning to play with new players, but now we've seen him being a lot more selective, a lot more variation in his game in the past couple of weeks, combining inside, and yeah, it's been sensational. All he's missing is a goal, really.
Yeah. And I know people will be dying for a certain answer on this, but people want him in and around the first team already. Do you think that's too soon?
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely
Yeah.
too soon. He's not played for the under-21s yet, so
Yeah.
A lot of players are different. Some people will like the pressure. A lot of players won't. But I think the club might have a duty of care to ensure that things don't get too much too soon. We've seen the likes of Ben Woodburn come in and fade away. I think Jurgen Klopp did specifically mention the pressure in that situation. He didn't have an international call-up so soon. And he's still playing for the under-17s for his country in Ngumoha. And I think he should just be given time to progress. We'll see him for the under-21s. I can see by January he'll have progressed there, if not sooner, which is usually what the club do. Usually they'll start the season with a certain team. There'll be players who might not have been able to get out on loan, still in the under-21s. And then come January, those players will move on. The players who have been doing well for the under-18s will step up. And then you'll see some under-16s and the under-18s, or maybe players who've not been getting minutes for the under-18s in the under-18s because it's a relatively big squad. But in terms of Ngumoha, I would like to say it's too soon, but you never know. But you never know with a player with that level of talent.
Yeah, we have seen it in the past where you see a name on the bench in the FA Cup, for example, and you're surprised that he's in there. But yeah, just going back to the first team, and obviously there's a few injuries in the first team at the minute, defensively especially. Canate out injured, and Nalo was on the bench the other day, wasn't he? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
do you think he could be involved at any point, especially with that FA Cup game coming up?
He definitely could be involved in the FA Cup game, and I'd have to say I think it's well deserved. I think he could have a case for the maybe not the definite choice, but I think he's been one of the best players for the under-21s this season. And similar to Morrison, he's an under-18 player who's stepping up. Although he was playing regularly for the under-21s last season as a 16, 17-year-old. But he seems to be a great talent. To me, he's a player who makes defending look entertaining. The way he glides out of a ball, it's almost regal. But I think a lot of what will get picked up in is his defending. Is aerially dominant, front-footed, aggressive. But I think his ball playing's underrated as well. He's got a good variation of pass on him, so he's capable of the diagonals, but he's also capable of the simple. Some of them do split the lines, and is an asset going forward as well, really. And with Nalo, he's tactically versatile. We've seen him play as a left back before to great effect, really. We had a big win last season against Arsenal. We probably will have heard about it in the FA Youth Cup. It was 7-1. Nalo played left back that game. He was up against the likes of Ethan Nwaneri. Not directly against him all the time. It would be unfair to say. But he had a great game. He's definitely more of a lockdown left back, as you'd expect a centre-back playing there. He wasn't rampaging down the line and getting crossings into the byline, but he held down the line, give his left winger a great platform. So I think that versatility will be something that might be of use to the first team. I would say Accrington Stanley. I'd say he's got a great chance of being in the team.
Yeah, especially with Simicast's injury as well, as you say, with his versatility.
Yeah,
And just moving on to Jayden Dans as well. I know we can't do one of these without talking about him. I mean, probably
yeah.
one of my favourite academy players. He's been injured with a was it a hip injury? Hip or a
I
back
think it was
injury?
back injury.
Yeah. It was an awkward one, wasn't it? And those ones you've kind of got to be really careful with. But he's back in training and that now, so he could be one for maybe Southampton and Accrington again, maybe.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I'm not sure if you'll be on social media today, but since the Newcastle game, Darwin Núñez has been under criticism, shall we say.
Yeah, yeah,
And people say Slot likes his strikers to be almost like 9.5. And Dan's can play on the shoulder. He can drop deep. He's had a lot of time out injured. But he has been involved in first team training since he's been back, which is suggestive that he is going to be in and around that picture. Linked with a move away in the summer, Plymouth heavily
yeah,
linked. So we'll see if anything comes to fruition there. If he is in and around the first team, I would imagine that Slot will like him, should he be able to regain his form. And he's a really hard worker, and he will get to where he needs to be. When it comes to Jayden Dans, I'll always say, and I'm sure he won't mind me saying, his year as a first-year scholar, it was really quiet. We started with a front three of Doak, Kumas, and Trent Cone-Doherty, which is quite unfair at that level, to be fair. But Dans wasn't one of the players that was involved too much up until the second half of the season. He grew massively, so he's probably just getting used to his body. And at times he looked almost clumsy. And the improvement from his first year scholar season to the second year was immense. And I think that's, first of all, a lesson in player development. Some players are getting used to their bodies. We can't judge what we see almost all the time. We've got to judge where things can go. And it's a massive credit to him, the amount of work what he put in to get where he needs to be. He massively came on not just as a goal scorer, but his overall play. He can drop deep and do that role. And we saw him in the first team. He was able to cope well with the first team physicality of senior players. He was riding contact really well, linking up with teammates. And I still remember the confidence, what he took his goal with. It was almost a surprise, really, how confident he was with the chipped goal against Southampton. That was particularly nice. The fact that he would even go for that, I think it says a lot about him as a player. And with it being a striker as well, I think they can mature a little bit later. I mean, no development to say, but yeah, I think he's got a big future ahead of him. It's good to have him back. And it wouldn't be a surprise to see him versus Accrington Stanley, potentially even sooner from the bench.
Yeah. Yeah, he's an absolute unit. I met him after one of the games last season, and I couldn't believe how big he actually is for his age. But yeah, that's about it from all I wanted to talk about. I guess the only thing is there anyone we haven't mentioned that we should be looking out for?
I think there are a couple on that are players that will be going under the radar, which might be like sleeper talents. Maybe you say maybe they're at that level now. What we spoke about earlier at the under 18 level, where it seems far away from a first team setup. I think it will change these players throughout the season. For the other players, what do well come to the forefront. At the moment, though, Joe Bradshaw doing incredibly well. He's in a great run of form. He was actually signed from Accrington Stanley as an under 13 player. It was I remember it being reported at the time, and it was somewhat of a high-profile move in the academy realms. But he broke through last season as an under 16 player. He looked like he was going to almost be a striker, but that's not turned out with the case. He's in his first year scholar season now. He's represented both England and Ireland at youth level, and he's been playing on the right this season. He's a player who works incredibly hard for the team. He's relentlessly direct. He reminds me of a bit of a Tasmanian devil on the football pitch. He's very, very confident, but like I say, he's relentlessly direct. He's always facing up his fullback, causing them to run the other way. From what you see on social media, he's regularly practicing his ball mastery skills with an outside coach, which is good to see. And he did break through as an under-16 player. He scored on his debut, I believe, and started the season relatively slow. He's been playing out on the right wing, and now he seems to have really got to grips with a level. Playing with Josh Lamby, who's a striker. I think they're learning each other's game really well. But he's got 5 goals in his last 5 games. I don't think he's going to be in the first team setup any time soon. And I don't think I'd say that about many players, just out of fairness. Not fair to give him that pressure. But he's a talent who I think should get some recognition for his recent performances. And he's doing well. And he'll make his under-21 debut before the end of the season. He's a real assertive player, makes his mark on the pitch. I think the youth team played against Leverkusen recently and won 3-0. There's a lot of recognition going on for that game. I think Bradshaw was probably the man of the match that game. So yeah, his family very supportive around him. So he's got good people. And it'll be interesting to see how he gets on come the end of the season. I think he's the top scorer in the academy at the moment. So yeah.
Sounds good. Everything seems to be going in the right direction then in the academy as well. So that's good to hear. So just before we go, Lewis, where can everyone find your work? Anything you want to plug? Feel free.
Just follow me on Twitter. Just type my name in, Lewis Bauer. I'm easy.
That's what I always say. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for coming on. Everyone watching, keep an eye out for the next episode. It's not going to be a weekly thing, but hopefully be quite frequent. So keep an eye out for it. And we'll catch you in the next one.